Venerable sisters and brothers and friends, today for the sixth time, or the sixth day, we are going to have the Dhamma talk. May everyone receive the concept with 3 times sadhu sadhu sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Yato ho brahmana bhikkhu jagadiyan anuyutto viharati tamenan tathagato uttarin vineti etvam bhikkhu sati sampajannena samannagato hoti. Dear Dhamma friends, yesterday we have taken yet another step along this gradual training. The Buddha asked the already qualified yogi to be devoted in wakefulness, that is to spend the time as much as possible in walking meditation and sitting meditation, so that he will be pay more attention to the awareness, the diligence and the vigilance, and that is how he tries his best not to let the sense perception to arise in the stream of consciousness. That means he is already aware from the sense objects and the sense indulgence, and when and where it is you strategically become successful to go away, the mind becomes more obsessed with this sense perception. So therefore you have to have kind of a wakefulness in order to keep the stream of consciousness pure. That is why you have to practice that sitting and walking meditation. We yesterday tried to understand whenever someone is going to take a comfortable sitting after a successful walking meditation, whenever you close your eye and pay attention to what is happening inside, often this sense desire or greediness bound to arise. Whenever that happens, it is not real materialistic sense pleasure, not direct touch, but it's a mind-made one. So in order to get rid of that, you take refuge of materiality or kaya, that you try to focus in one of the neutral object arising here and there, here and now, and try to keep the attention with that particular object. That is to say, when and where you have done away with kama guna, the kama sanya will come and trouble you. In order to get rid of kama sanya, you take refuge of rupa. Rupa means corporeality, the materiality, and for that you have to apply this samatha techniques, that was samatha anugrahika. That is what we call in meditation, that is what we call sitting meditation and walking meditation. And there you select a neutral and effortless object. You repetitively apply to that. Whenever it is happening, that means as far as you are face to face with your object, or we can say primary object, you are not only do away with kama guna, that is materialistic sense pleasure, so namely visual objects, desirable sounds, taste, smells, touch and other kind of thing, and you further try to keep the kama sanya just mere perception, your past memories or future planning. So therefore each and every moment you keep your mind face to face with the object, and now you are in a kind of a materialistic world, rupa world, but you can can see how much it is challengeful to keep this your primary object. If I am to give an example, that is maybe rising and falling or in-breath and out-breath, to keep, that is how Kamachanda is going to disturb you. So you have to have so much of strategies to keep object in avenue with or face-to-face with. So that is why you try to observe details and all the particulars of that particular object, so that mind will get more and more engaged in this appointed object. So that is what we call observing the natural characteristics of the primary object. So when and where you are going to observe immediately, theoretically what you are observing is the water element, air element, earth element and the fire element. So they are manifesting in different ways and different facets. So at the beginning, you never see them as elementary characteristics. Instead you will see my body is becoming hot, or end of the nostril become cooler, or some jerks are happening, or some heaviness, lightness. All the kind of things you experience with respect to your body or with your normal day-to-day jargon. But more and more you have to familiarize, that is to say, penetrate into the primary object, that is Rupa, and ultimately you find these these elementary characteristics. They have no any regard whether it is working in your body or another body, whether it is going to give a pleasurable feeling or unpleasurable feeling, whether it is inflicting suffering or it is going to be the pleasure. So you are the person going to attribute different characteristics and likings and disliking. Sometimes get upset, sometimes we are very happy. So these are the immature mind, that is the way observations are being reported. But when and where you keep on practicing, you will see whether you are observing or not. This is what happens in the in-breath and out-breath, that is the primary object. Even beyond that, all over the body, that is not going to happen. And the moment you are trying to see them, just mere elementary characteristics and attributions with likings and disliking, good or bad, pleasurable or unpleasurable, that is how you go to the pure matter, and your mind become, or mentally mind become, more and more immediate with the object. So when it is happening, if you are starting with primary object, that is to say, around your nostril or on the top of your upper lip, more and more you to observe elementary characteristics, or in terms of elementary characteristics, the other areas of the body also slowly becoming prominent. So you find your mind is not really confined to the end of the nostril or to the upper lip, as far as the Anapanasati yoga is concerned. Everywhere you are trying to feel the elementary characteristics. So sometimes if you are not well instructed, whenever you feel the touching sensation of your leg to the ground, you don't know where to focus your attention. Is it to focus into the again, bring it back and pull it back and focus into the in-breath and out-breath, or to see this secondary characteristics also just as representative of elementary characteristics. So there are discussion or interviews or dialogue is very important. You have to understand if you have any kind of a doubt, if the mind is going to entertain doubts, please go back to your primary object. But if the mind is ready for the radical reflection, let the meditative mind to be wakeful to the whatever it happens. Slowly that confined mind to the nostrils or to the top of the upper lip, slowly increasing the boundaries. And ultimately, if you welcome it, if you still develop the wakefulness, sometimes you feel your boundary of your body, so-called myself, disappears. You're going to feel heat, cold, stiffness, tension, movements like passing clouds in the sky. And hardly you can find what is me and what is not me. So therefore, when and where you go into the real understanding, the grammar or the language of the elementary characteristics, your knowledge becomes slowly universal, starting from this very particular point that you have focused, something like the nostrils or top of the lip, maybe if you are doing rising and falling near the navel, ultimately slowly increasing. When that is happening, those yogis do not know, never heard about, they become upset, they disturb this development. That is because of entertaining doubts. But you have to understand, whenever the wakefulness developing, slowly it is going through the penumbra, like the area is increasing. When that is happening, even if you got up, and even if you go to walking meditation, you find still you can explain all the changes of your posture in terms of elementary characteristics. How the heaviness is happening, how the lightness is happening, how the heat and cold, how the movement and expansion and contraction going to take place. So therefore, if you, after a successful sitting meditation, even if you go to walking meditation, maybe you go for yet another small job, you find this wakefulness is continuing. And if you manage to secure your mind as much as possible, even away from the sitting meditation, whenever you are going to see something, maybe at the end of the walking path or in your day-to-day activities, if you know that you have to keep guard about your senses, immediately you can understand now no more in terms of elementary characteristics. Now I am going to see birds, I am going to see flowers, I am going to see butterflies, and soon when these conventional names and adjectives going to come, liking and disliking is happening. Instead, if you can see it like a movement or like a elementary this thing, you can still observe it, but no much of desire, no much of attachment. So viratta citto vedeti, you not the rupan disva sati mutta, not you are not observing the forms with unmindfulness. Now your wakefulness and mindfulness is going to give you some kind of energy, even if you are observing. That means even if you are a seer, you can understand how I am seeing, and as far as mind is not restrained, it is going to see in through the conventional adjectives and names. But instead, if you are understanding now, my observation is no more with the nostrils, no more with the walking meditation in the soul, but I am observing, you can understand with mindfulness how the seeing going to happen, how the hearing going to happen, how the smelling, tasting, touching. Likewise, you can make use this wakefulness in a wider range, or in the sense, little beyond the sitting and walking meditation. And there are, even if it is not within your primary object, you can develop kind of an insight, even with seeing, hearing, smelling, touching. The main thing you will find, you will not be carried out, you will not be taken for a ride by the visual object that you see, with the sounds that you see. Instead, the wakefulness happens. So under such circumstances, we can understand how to maintain the stream of consciousness, not letting the defilements to come and infiltrate, but instead you can observe and you know you are observing, you know you are listening. And when that happens, still in a very subtle form, you can see the desire is there, undesirability is there, or neutral feelings are there. So much so, situation is little by little come under your control. But when this is happening, all your hedonic feelings or hedonic tones, your pleasurable feeling tone becomes fade off. And if it is happening too fast, there may be some irritation going to happen. You find world is very pale. You find world is very monotonous. It is very boring. And even in the sitting, even in the walking, even in the looking at. So there are a kind of irritation going to happen. And sometimes manifest as self-criticism. And there's nothing to entertain in the world. And instead you see, if you are at home, your children and your friends and other relatives they are entertaining everything. So they find they are not up to the mark, they are not spiritual, they are not religious, they are not virtuous. And how can I teach them to restrain their faculties? Like you find fault with others also. Ultimately you find world is in a kind of a chaotic situation. Unknowingly, kind of a hatred, kind of a irritation going to increase. So therefore, when and where you become successful in handling, maybe temporarily, on kamachanda, the vyapada, the hatred, the irritation going to raise head. Of course, this is a very good sign the mindfulness is catching. But no one read this as a development. No one can read or interpret in a healthy way. So therefore, there may be some disturbances in your behavioral pattern and valuation. So therefore, you have to understand, whenever you suppress this kamachanda, it is an opening for hatred to arise. Whenever you are going to suppress the hatred, the chance is there for the kamachanda. Please excuse me to use this Pali terms, it is easier, kamachanda to arise. So, to make the long story short, we say when and where you become successful in handling both sense desire and the hatred, what happens is, mind becomes so slimy, mind becomes so congealed, even in the walking meditation you start to feel sleepiness. And even nothing to talk about walking sitting meditation. Wherever you find no interest, very boring. So that is the point where this, the Buddha says, you have to have already boosted dose with this energy or virya, or that means develop the wakefulness, otherwise the sleepiness, disinterest, or boredom can set in. So whenever you go to a meditation retreat or to a meditation monastery, these changes are there. The monasteries and the retreats are made in such a way not to arouse the sense desire, not to arouse any kind of interaction and irritation. So sleepiness is the next thing. So that is why Buddha says, before going into very deep and very subtle training, you have to devote it in wakefulness, and under such circumstances, walking meditation is going to give a booster dose or more mobilized energy for you to continue. So they are the main secret to understand these episodes and just keep on practicing, and then mind is compromising to another equilibrium, even though it is not with the sensual pleasure, even though it is not the hatred, and mind understand how to see the wakefulness, how to keep it the stream of consciousness somewhat mobilized. So under such circumstances, if you apply that kind of energized situation, mobilized situation to the in-breath and out-breath, this may be a good time for you to see how the arising part of the breath, how the disappearing part of the in-breath, how the arising part of the out-breath, how the disappearing part of the out-breath. Likewise, you have to give more detail of your primary object, not the middle part, but to the beginning of it, the beginning of the in-breath, beginning of the out-breath, beginning of the rising mode, beginning of the falling mode. So, you find mind is assimilating another kind of equilibrium more towards the materiality rather than taking refuge of sense pleasure or in the hatred and the desire. And when and where you develop a consistent, regular timetable, yet the doubt can arise. As a hindrance, this is the way the mind is developing. Am I in the correct path? Am I in the samatha way? Am I in the vipassana way? Am I becoming backward in the social status? All the kind of doubt can happen. So, whenever you are listening to the yogic questions, you can understand. Of course, that particular yogi can see some kind of improvement, some kind of development, but their rational mind is raising head in terms of doubts, or regret about the past, or future excitements. This is how these 5 hindrances, avaraniya dhamma, blockages and hindrances are going to work. So, you have to be very tactful when and where the sense pleasure, how much is going to happen, one-pointedness will work as antidote. When and where the hatred or irritation, all point is going to happen, the pleasure, the joy you arise, you create by keeping the object face to face will give a compensation. Whenever the sleepiness, the slimy mind, the congealing mind will happen, away from the sitting meditation you can use walking meditation. Within the sitting meditation you can keep on noting. No need to apply thoughts. By rigorous noting, you can again mobilize the mind. When and where the doubt arises, am I progressing, or am I in the vipassana way, or am I in the samatha way? How can I keep the relationship with the other members? All the kind of things. The best thing is to observe the primary object as detailed as possible, and try to see their natural characteristics. For example, if you are to observe the in-breath and out-breath, basically you can see a element. The other elementary characteristics will not be more prominent. But when you keep on sharpening your faculties, when you keep on observe the breath immediately, you may see the heat and cold. You may see the lightness and the heaviness. You may see the cohesiveness and the fluidity, all kind of things. So more and more you go to the detailed thing, there is no chance for you to entertain doubts. And regarding the regrets of the past and the future, excitements are going to happen. You have to use the rapture, you have to use the pressure, so that you can see the arising in-breath. If you can keep continuous mindfulness, as Ajahn Brahm mentioned, the beautiful breathing. The breathing is such a refuge. You can start right from the beginning, through the middle up to the end. So you see, it's a very easy and very beautiful. So breath becomes your food, becomes your fertilizer. This familiarity happens. That is how in the sitting meditation you can do away with 5 hindrances, and exactly the same thing, but in a different dimension, can happen in the walking meditation. Walking meditation is not basically for the concentration, it is for the energy to mobilize. And they are also, at the beginning, if you have any kind of distractions, you keep on noting left leg, right leg, left leg, right leg. And if the mind is about to run up and down, observe when you are keeping the leg, the elementary characteristic, that means leg is soft, the ground is hard, the left is warmer, the ground is cooler, and crispy nature or flat nature, all the kind of thing you can do. And if the sleepiness is going to set in, you can do nodding, one step in, two noddings, that is lifting and dropping. And if it's still, if it is necessary, you can nod this one step in, three nodding, lifting, moving, dropping. And each and every part has the beginning, the middle and the end. Likewise, you mobilize as if you have a congealed and caked butter. When you put on a hot pan, slowly it becomes spreadable, it becomes liquidated. Exactly the same you can use in the walking meditation also. When everything comes into the proper balance, you feel the effortless walking is happening. You can observe as if a second person, your puppet-like body is walking. You can observe it. And there you can see totality, the whole process as such. And that is how you take interest in the then and there phenomena rather than sensuous pleasure. So unless otherwise you are skillful in this introvert journey, throughout your meditative life, the sense pleasure, the hatred, the sleepiness, sloth and torpor, entertaining doubts, and this past and future distraction can happen. So this area is in a sense very dramatic, very interesting and very colorful, but so much of trial and error. So when that happens, the Buddha says not only on sitting, you must possess, you must be mindful and fully aware in going forward and coming backward. Abhikante patikante sampajanakari hoti. So if you know this is the way it is, diversifying, developing, slowly you become independent of the posture. You become independent of the time. You become independent of the social context, external context. So you make use as much as possible, whatever may be the posture or other posture junctions, each and everything you try to observe with. So that is how you are not only the solitude from the dear and near one and the properties and kind of thing, but how to get rid of this sense desire or sense perception. There should have something to fill or replace, otherwise definitely sense pleasure or the sense of desire going to trouble you. For an example, if you are to fill water into a bottle with very little mouth, you can't just put it under the tap and expect the water to go in, because the mouth is so small. So best thing is you have to either put drop by drop, or you have to put a wick, a small thread, and feed it slowly through the thread. The water will go inside. To the amount water go inside, the air will be replaced. Exactly the same way when you are practicing this Jagadhyana yoga, that is to keep mindfulness and walking meditation, and then further into all the posture junctions, you have to be very strategic and understand the context, what is the situation, and be aware of whatever it may be happening under your very nose. So this is quite a revolutionary answer for the people living in the multitask kind of a job. They don't have monastic atmosphere, they don't have so much of facilitated meditation halls and well-prepared walking paths, but they can be aware when you go forward and coming backward. when you are looking forward and when you are looking sideways, when you are bending your arms and when you are stretching your arms. Likewise the Buddha, out of his own experience, he has given so much of detail. That is the way of compassion he has shared. To the point he says, even if you are in the toilet, even if you are doing the first and the second job, that is also a ritual, a place, a chance, a time for you to be mindful. So therefore, many living in this household life, they make a reason, a point, telling that we don't have enough time. That is a kind of traditional thinking. But if you understand the gradual development, wherever maybe the time permits, or the situation is conducive, you can make this establishment of mindfulness. And while you are doing, you may understand what are the most conducive time, posture, outside situation. So it takes long time for you to understand, for you to establish this mindfulness, and this is how you qualify yourself to be a full-time yogi. And each and every event, when and where it is happening, you have to maximize, you have to make use in a strategic way. That means each and every distraction, in the sense each and every disturbance is sharpening your definition of mindfulness. So more and more you try to understand the context, later you will develop so much ways and means, what is the best techniques in order to bring the mind in balance. So sometimes when you be successful with the help of all these posture junctions, and that means be mindfulness in the posture junction, and skillfulness and the wakefulness in the walking meditation, when you come and sit, sometimes that all the faith, the energy, the mindfulness, the concentration and the wisdom, they come to a very harmonized, good equilibrium. And there your penetrating capacity is developing so much so, and your meditative mind and the object becomes so immediate. Both of them are going to work in the same RPM, same speed. So now you have no much of effort to keep the object in view with, object to be face to face with. And they are, if it is a samatha way of explaining, we can say the mind is going to penetrate into the object. But in the vipassana, it is then and there are moments, what used to say, kanamatta-titika samadhi. As and when the object arises, without becoming delayed or quick, mind is go and coincide with the object. And there what is happening is, in the English language, you can see through the object. You can penetrate through the object. That means, for example, if you are taking one in-breath, within an in-breath, there are 1,001 tiny in-breaths. Between these two tiny in-breaths, you have space. So whenever you see through, you can't find any unit as such. Each and everything split off, just like hit with electric beam or radar. It is splitting. And ultimately you find everything scattering off, and for the first time you are going to see the space in between two bubbles, many tiny particles. And when it is happening, sometimes it can be like a fearful, because as if your foundation is broken like. And sometimes you can't figure it out. Is this in-breath and out-breath, or am I completely unmindful and completely scattered mind, because the object is appear like just a balloon full of dust and everything is changing. If you are mindful and if the mindfulness is continuous, undisturbed, you can see gradual development. From the solid in-breath, slowly becomes subtle and very subtle, ultimately you can see through, and there you find between particles lot of space, or that means you can see through. Under such circumstances, after the end of the out-breath, before starting the in-breath, you find a huge gap, and sometimes you find breathing difficulties. You feel like uncomfortable, as if you are in the edge of a cliff and about to fall like. So when it is happening, you are for the first time going to see the gradual cessation of the out-breath, and then the in-breath happens. But if you keep on practicing further and further, you will see within in-breath, within the out-breath also, there are a lot of gaps. So the time you take to understand the gap is the most natural thing, and this material, so-called the bubbles in between, are the one creating defilements. So therefore, to understand this gap and take this as your second nature, take this as your real home, so much of practice you have to keep on doing. So the Buddha says, our mind is so obsessed and so, we can say, so engrossed with karma guna. So you have to take effort in order to temporarily do away with the karma guna and then do with karma chanda, that is perception of the sense pleasure. And in order to replace karma chanda, you are taking the refuge of the rupa, the kaya, or materiality, and you develop familiarity, you develop immediateness, wakefulness, diligence. Ultimately everything will be amplified, and you are bound to see through this materiality, and then only there you can see the space or volume within that the material or dust or particles are working. So this is exactly what happened from the Newtonian physics to the Einstein physics. The Newton, as a scientist, he took this material thing and he gave three-dimensional configuration as a specific gravity, and it has its own due velocity, and he took as a building block of the world. And while we keep on practicing, good side of the science is, they still kept on practicing. Ultimately they reduced into the atoms, subatomic particles, and ultimately the day they see each and every particle sometimes dissolve into energy, sometimes energy becomes quantum of energies, and sometimes it is a particle. When that happens, no more you can apply gravitational theory. Gravitational theory apply only for the collapse, consolidated particles. But whenever you go further, there are no more other relations going to start. And there onward, the definition about the matter and the non-matter disappear. They have to talk in terms of energies. So something like that happens whenever your mindfulness becomes very sharp, and the other faculties are going to help you. Whenever you see through, you are bound to see the space in between. In samatha meditation, the way you specialize this is to go into akasa aranchayatana. When you go to the first, second, third, fourth jhana, ultimately you find all the matter, all the breath, or whatever the thing you have taken as a primary object, you are so subtle. You can see through, and then you see everything is working within a volume that is called akasa, or space, and space becomes your second nature. And there the Buddha says, see matter is limited, space is unlimited. Akasam anantam, akasam anantam. Your mindset is now ready to accept the space as more preliminary and more intrinsic than the matter. So, shifting from matter to space, it's a huge change, and this is in the Samatha method, it's called Rupa Jhana to Arupa Jhana, changes is happening. So, when you are studying this Moggallana Sutta, just immediately, one before this Moggallana Sutta, the Buddha is explaining how Kama is replaced by Kama Sanya, and Kama Sanya is replaced by Rupa, and Rupa is replaced by Akasa, and that is how gradual process, the subtlety, from gross to the subtlety happen. So you now talk in terms of the object, Kama object, Kama Sanya as object, Rupa as object, and Akasa as object, as and when the material part of your object subtle, exactly in the same way, your mind, the observer's mind, also the material mentality also has to become subtle. So this is how one day you can merge into the space. So sometimes yogis can feel no more any signs of the breath, no thoughts, and you are in a huge space. And everything is harmonized, and no effort necessary, no noting necessary. It is limitlessly, we can be there. But you have to understand, to go there and to appreciate that, you must have such a healthy mind, otherwise you will be panicky, you will be hysteric, you will be fearful, you will be nauseatic, and you will develop fear. Because this is something new. From the Western psychological point of view, we can say you are going into the subconscious. Now tip of the iceberg is penetrated through, now it is in the submarine level, subconscious level, and when you go there, if you are ready to explore, if you are still have energy to go in, and you are no more looking at your mind, you are looking at the human mind. Because at that area, no discrimination. Everyone may come up to that level, whether they share it or whether you communicate it or not, you are coming to the rock bottom. But the thing is, if you are to go into that, you have to do away with the conceit. You have to do away with your selfishness. You have to do away with the desire. So therefore these things are happening as and when the object becomes subtle and subtle and subtle. And the day you come up to that level, you may understand, even in your meditative career, you would have gone to this area, nearly to this area 1,001 times, that our mind is blocking. Mind has kind of a phobia to go to this unknown area. So therefore, when and where it is gone, it appears like you lost the path. You develop kind of a uncertainty. You develop kind of a fearfulness. So therefore, immediately the rational mind takes a decision to jump back and be happy with what is your body. You open your eyes, you start fast breathing, or you get up and go. That is the way it happens. So, but it is not a punishable mistake. It is not you are not the only person doing it. So much after practicing, while you keep on doing, you may see, in order to master this situation, that means through Rupa, through the corporeality, to see the interspace. Earlier it may take 35 minutes, 45 minutes, right? Once you master, once you are in a comfortable sitting, very quickly you can go there. And our mind is very happy to be with something than nothing. So therefore, whatever appearing as something you have to master, whatever it may be, you have to see this something appear out of nothing. So in order to be more spiritual, more exploring, go into the nothingness, you can see nothing blocking other than your consciousness. Your consciousness is always happy with the known devil than unknown. So it is always manifesting to come back to the normal world. For example, whenever the breath becomes so subtle, your body takes very long in breath and calm down. You don't know whether it is you are doing it or it is happening. Sometimes whenever you have that kind of thing, the heart beats pounding and that feel like something fearful. And sometimes you feel like suffocation. The breath becomes so scared. And that is the thing we can see how the manifestation of the mind. And under such circumstances, instead of, I will put it this way, under such circumstances, if there are no tangible materiality, you see a lot of mind-made imagination and you see mental images. You are bound to hear mental sounds, strange smells, sometimes taste, sometimes body jerks, and mind makes so much of things, and you do not know whether it is a concept or reality, because mind is somewhat lost to come. So, in order to verify whether it is the reality or concept, very difficult, no second person can help. Only the way you must trace back to the path. Throughout the path, if you are mindful, you have a reason to develop confidence. If your mindfulness is distant, discontinuous, it takes a lot of time for you to understand how this conceptual or daydreaming and concepts and the reality is going to happen. So therefore this area is quite volatile. Only through your practice, only through your repetitive application, only with your faith. This faith is not the faith about the Buddha, this is the faith about your own mind. You have to have a kind of energy. It is not in supermarket. You have to associate yourself. It's a kind of a mindfulness. It is not with the breath. Breath is no more. Objects are no more. You are on the answer without a sign, without an object. The concentration there is never with the sign. And wisdom is not something you can accumulate. You understand anything you can accumulate, it is the ignorance, not the wisdom. So far anything you accumulated, it leads into desire, conceit, and egoistic idea. But this wisdom is really indicating how was my value system. Instead of trying to see things as they are, kind of a wisdom you have to develop. So therefore this faith uplifted from the baseless or from the amulika saddha, you have to develop okappana saddha, kind of your own saddha, not depending on the posture, not depending on the object, not depending on your teacher. You know what to do. And the energy is not the arambha dhatu. You have to have a nikkama dhatu, kind of a special booster dose. And the mindfulness must be continuous mindfulness, that is akhanda sati or supapitita sati mindfulness. And that level, you are very clear. At that time I was not mindful, now I am mindful. So much so, the accountability happens. And the concentration, it is always silence. Nimitta become animitta. Not only the materiality, even the mind-made projections, you have to say, they are in between the concept and reality, but you can understand the concentration can remain completely without any sign, without any materiality. And the wisdom, you will understand something which, whatever may be, you can accumulate, that is not the wisdom. Wisdom is something thin and there. So this indriya dhamma, that is your faculties, become powerless on only through trial and error. So when it is happening, you see, even if your meditation is so clear to see matter and non-matter, me and not me, or rupa and akasa, our complete rational knowledge is pulling us back to the rupa, pulling us back to the what you know. So therefore, even though you are a successful yogi, even though you have the saddha, vidya, sati, samadhi, panya, if you do not understand the magician's work, the work of the consciousness, whenever the rational mind is going to take upper hand, it will pull back to the materiality, measurability, expressibility, where you can use the language, communicate, but in order to go there, you have to understand more than understanding of space is a skillfulness, but the tricky mind, the consciousness, discriminating the matter versus non-matter and giving a priority to the matter is this. So that is the point. Earlier, before the Buddha, no one challenged. Many people would have gone to these subtle states, but they can understand whenever the conscious mind, the rational mind going to upper hand, of course that is what happens in our wakeful mind, the tip of the iceberg, is pulling we back again and again to the known area. So to understand akasa panchayatana and then go to the vijnana panchayatana, the function of the vijnana, it is a very deep layer. So many yogis going into this space, they ask what to do next. Should I mention, should I contemplate on anicca dukkha anatta? Should I contemplate on the repulsivity of the body? Should I contemplate the virtues of the Buddha? Should I develop metta bhavana? The best thing is do nothing. You must train yourself. The mind is so crafty. It is making ourselves busy and going to make something in order to hang. So therefore you have to train in such a way, let the mind to boil down, let everything precipitate and see how much the mind going to take the upper hand and again pulling back you into the fast possibility or getting up and go or thinking or practicing your other meditation. So this is how the trick is played. So therefore you keep on practicing and knowing that you are in a better state, don't put any intelligence, don't put any formulas. Let the mind to experience this freedom or kind of a space. So you have to, and then you will understand how the consciousness is crafty and coming out with these formulas, coming out with this intelligence, applications, storytelling. So there are, the Buddha says, I can't help you, no way, but you have to understand, familiarize in this situation as soon as possible, and there you may find, maybe it is irrational, it is better to go into a forest, it is better to go under a tree, or it is better to go to a secluded place, or in modern language, to renunciate. But I have my fair doubt. Are we in such a state to appreciate this and understand the tricky consciousness, or we are fighting, we are going for rights as a how be a lay person becoming enlightened. So when you listen to the questions, main question is how to maintain the lay life, not the nibbana. Being a lay person, how can I be enlightened? It is mere concept. So therefore, if your mind is ready to give up the past and the future, and to understand when and where you encounter any object, how the desire, how the hatred going to arise. So this is what the renunciation means. Not the renunciating from your household, therefore it is mentally and physically, both you have been challenged. So when the rational mind going to take up a hand, so again pull back you to the normal sensuous world. But path is clear. Anubhava Sikha, Anubhava Kiriya, Anubhava Pada is clear. Next time when you are successful again, you open into this very subtle state, and therefore the Buddha, as a teacher, he has given the technique, he has given the tool, but you have to make a decision. So therefore, the Yoniso-Manasikara, the radical reflection, and the wise reflection is still critically waiting. So while it is happening, without changing your likings and disliking, without be ready to change your personality traits, the next step will not take place. So therefore, while it is happening one day, you will consider, now so much of times I have come up to that level. What is blocking? Blocking is that our mind do not like to go to unknown. It will take refuge and very happy to come back to the known. The known is papancha, anhananavitti, either desire or conceit, or I think therefore I am. Kergo, Akito-san, that is what the Swami Descartes mentioned. So therefore, as far as that is there, you may be fighting and you may be winning and going to this brain, then again come back. And that is what happened even in Buddha. So therefore, when you are practicing Anubhava Sikha, Anubhava Kiriya, Anubhava Pada, even as a layperson, even on a trial basis, you can see whether you can cut across and go into the deep layers. And when and where you are going there, you earn something, you develop some kind of a potential, and ultimately it comes to a very critical, decisive situation. So then onward, you are ready to take this the space as your second nature and homely, and when and where mind becomes engrossed, it is take refuge of this materiality and the desire and the conceit and the ego. So now you are having two options, and this keep on going on. That is why when the Upatissa meeting the Venerable Assaji was one of the early disciples, so hesitant to tell the other person. He told, I am a newcomer. I don't know the teaching of the Buddha. The Buddha is telling the root cause for everything. But the Upatissa is, he told, never mind, but you tell me, I will try to understand in 1001 ways, and it is my duty to understand. So then only the real convincing or real change is going to take place. So therefore, up to that level, it is giving you tools, giving you then and there results, and exposing you to novelty or some kind of very subtle state. And more you go there, you have to develop your own confidence, and you are the person deciding, and no second person can do it. That's the place Buddha wash his hands and says, that's all I can do. And when you are doing, more and more confidence you have, rather it is not a decision, it's a phenomena, something happens. So that is in the ethical way you can say you renounce, or in the mental way you can say you are no more ready to accept any mental tension, any frustration. Instead you see the frictionless part, the comfort zone, and when and they are both given, the day you are going to give the consent to the other, some shifting of paradigm is going to take place. So till that, Anubhava Sikha, Anubhava Kiriya, Anubhava Pada is intact. From this point onward, is gradual development, no more is ready. Then onward is completely electric thing going to happen. But you have to go through 1001 times and season this, and then only one day you will give the final battle, something like in the boxing, in the last ring, you give a knockout to the opponents to fall down and not to get up. So that we will leave aside. As far as the Ganaka Moggallana Sutta is concerned, it is teaching the gradual process. I hope by understanding and learning this, you will develop more and more confidence on the investment you have done already, and that will be accelerate hopefully your spiritual journey. Wishing that so, I would like to sum up today's talk. Thank you very much for listening.